Put the whole silent. My phone.
Hello, world. We're here, serving Savannah, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Brooklyn, Houston, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and the world. The best music all the time. The greatest songs ever made, every time. Tune in to Hot 2100 Savannah and get a taste for your ears. Hot 2100 Savannah, serving Savannah and the world.
I was muted, but welcome back, gentlemen. We're here on Sunday now instead of Saturday. We're moving Watch Dawgz to Sunday evening at 6 so we can be live and see comments and all of the good things. And so, I think, Clinton, I know your day has kind of been interesting, but how are you?
I've been better. I'm going to have to come up with a ride to the impound place, have my car towed to my house. I don't know why they wouldn't do that, and my house was right down the block from where it's
it's called, they got to make money. They got to make money. It's capitalism.
Yeah. And then I got to learn how to use Uber until I can either get another car or get my previous car fixed.
Did you get a Waymo?
Now, I don't think we don't have Waymo here in Savannah just yet. Do you know what Waymo is, Clinton?
I thought it was a transport facility.
Well, pretty much, yes. But what it is, it's a driverless ride share.
Oh, okay.
Facility.
Yeah. Automated drive. Yeah. No, we don't have that.
We don't have that down to yet. I think they're testing those out and getting the bugs out. But I do know Atlanta has the driverless cars. But Dante is on the way, to see Erica Kirk, but he's with us tonight.
Actually, I just witnessed the Falcons lose. So I'm a little bit bitter about that. So,
I get it. It's an interesting. I think they have a good squad. I think they have a good coach. It's just give them time to kind of gel. I think.
give them time. We are already like near deep in the season.
It's year one. You got a brand new everything. You got a brand new quarterback, brand new. It's a brand new package. So I would say give them a year. Now, year two, if it's looking kind of crazy, that's when we kind of put the red flags up. So
I can tell you this: once Georgia passed the law that we can gamble and bet, I will not bet on the Falcons.
I would not do that. I agree with you on that. You're better off getting hit in traffic than betting on the Falcons.
Amen to that.
I think the mistake they made in professional football is they don't allow drugs. Now we just make if all the players were just high in the kite, the game would be so much more entertaining.
We wouldn't have pain and injuries, would we?
Well, there's nothing like watching a guy go down all the way for a touchdown with no arms, bleeding profusely and not feeling a thing.
Well, I tell you one thing from my understanding, when they go in that tent, I think there's some magic that occurs, and after you go in that tent, there's no feeling. So I don't know. I haven't been in the tent. I haven't been on the sidelines. So, but y'all, let's kind of jump in our topics this week. This week we're going to, as always, we talk about local, regional, and national topics. Watch Dawgz is a kind of investigative reporting kind of a podcast, and we bring facts sometimes, but sometimes we bring opinion, and sometimes we bring both. And so tonight we're going to talk about low voter turnout, the Public Service Commission, and the election cycle, and then the economic ecosystem. So we know locally, well, the first two topics tie in together with the low voter turnout. What is it going to take to get people to vote, y'all?
I don't know. I mean, I voted early in October. So.
I think for some strange reason, since it's an off year, a lot of people just did not know about the elections that was going on, unless you were politically involved. And even some people that were politically involved wasn't that active. So I think it was just kind of a weird year. It was low voter turnout, like you said. Democrats did perform very well, not just in Georgia, but across the board nationally. I don't think that's going to happen next year. I think Republicans will have a wake-up call to stop that momentum. But it was a good night. If you were a liberal or progressive or a Democrat, I'm pretty sure you celebrated. But I think that win is going to be short-lived.
Regardless of the party, right? One of the things I'm doing or trying to do, if we take all the labels and the titles off, it's just not good. We know, guys, we know every year in November it's time to vote, right? It doesn't matter the year. We know in May there's a primary, in November there's an election. And, even though we don't have civics in many schools now, by now, if you don't understand May, I get that. But by now, if you're anywhere over the age of 30, you should know that November is that thing called voting is showing up.
Well, I think a big problem in local politics is a lot of people that are incumbents are wasting people's time with their input on state and national issues rather than focusing on local issues which they were elected for. And therefore, because people are only thinking of national or state topics, they ignore or forget about their local politics and forget about their local policies, and therefore they forget to vote locally. They don't understand you need to worry about your own house first before you worry about the big picture. And people are not focusing on local elections.
People don't focus on any elections. It's scary. I think, I saw some of the preliminary numbers. All I can tell you is we're in any election, I don't think we're anywhere near 50%, which I think is disappointing. I live for the day when we can see a 75% voter participation rate. I mean, one of the things I thought about the other night is, how do you get people to vote? So why don't we? Here's an idea. Why don't we put a deduction on national income tax, federal income tax? If you vote, then you get a certain deduction.
Yeah, that would work for young people. I don't know about older people, but that would work great for younger people.
We got to start somewhere.
I think that's a wonderful idea, but we should not be trying to incentivize people in a monetary means to do something that is your civic duty. I agree. We should we should find some ways to encourage people to get out and vote. But at the end of the day, that is a responsibility. You can't live in this society, complain about how the government works if you don't want to participate in government. So we should not incentivize you to be an adult, because that's what adults do. We want to know what our government is doing so we can make decisions in our own personal lives.
But you're looking at the ethical standpoint and the fact that everyone is a stakeholder. And what you fail to realize is a lot of people, and I hate to admit this, do not have the ability to connect the dots like that. But if we can just lure them into voting and they realize that their input does make a difference, good or bad, and that they are a stakeholder, the deduction doesn't have to be permanent. It can be a temporary, one-time thing just to entice people and to get involved in voting more, so they know what happens, so they understand the domino effect of their decisions. And maybe that way, during the next election cycle, they know if they don't vote, it can harm them.
I think it is a great idea to encourage people. I just, if we're going to incentivize things, we should incentivize people who pay their bills on time, people who wake up and go to work from 9 to 5.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, we should incentivize people who are actually doing what they're supposed to do instead of people that want to drag their feet, with all due respect.
And to your point, Dante, I agree with that. I think with this thing called credit score, why not,
reward people for paying on time.
There you go.
I agree with that. We're all free in agreement with this.
Look at that. That's crazy.
And I'm a libertarian and I agree with this.
I totally agree with that. I think, and Dante, I do hear your argument about the incentive piece, and that's a socialist idea. I'm sure you're going to say it, but at the same time, I think this works. I'm all about a solution that works across all of the racial participation, whatever lines you want to call it. But I also agree that people who do what they're supposed to do should also receive, some type of reward. Because at this point, I think what capitalism, to me now, has suggested that if I do X, I get this reward. And so we have put ourselves there as a country.
Yeah, I think it's an idea to give some incentive for people that pay taxes and bills on time. And it's a hard thing to do for anyone.
And so with that, I like both ideas, but let's kind of add this piece to the conversation. The Public Service Commission. I want to congratulate Peter Hubbard as well as Alicia Johnson. I was shocked. I'll be honest with you all. I'm very transparent. I was shocked. I'll be honest why I was shocked. I made a comment to one of our Democratic leaders. I said, well, I don't see any yard signs. I don't see any commercials. I don't see anything that's saying we want to win. When Daniel Blackman and I did the election, the PSC election back in 2020, along Warnock and Ossoff, you saw your traditional campaign, right? Even though it was COVID. But I'm shocked. But I think what's happening, and you all tell me, I think people are just wanting to see prices lower regardless of how we get there.
Yeah, I think that's holds true.
I 100% agree. I think there was, again,
2 times we're agreeing. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's weird.
I think it also had to do with an off year Republicans just didn't come out like the Democrats. The Democrats were really motivated. The Republicans are the ones in power, so a lot of fault will be directed at them. The energy prices, regardless of what the president said, energy prices are high. He can take wins every place else. However, energy prices are high, so Republicans are seen as the fault of that. And to be honest with you, even on the Republican side, there really wasn't that much campaigning. Not until like I would say late September, October. But again, the Democrats they came out. Even the blacks voters they match white voter turnout based on what the AJC said.
And to your point, and we have Carter the Radical joining us, but to your point, Dante, what one of the things I said early on, Tim Echols. Tim Echols has been, when you thought about the Public Service Commission, you thought about Tim Echols. He was the icon of the PSC, and so to have that defeat was incredible.
Yeah.
Quiet as it's kept, if I knew it was going to be that easy to beat Tim Echols, I would have jumped back in it. But anyway, it's just the reality of it.
Honestly, even though I knew Republicans wasn't going to do well, I
did not
they were going to win. I didn't expect it either. I thought they were going to win.
Now, this is a shameless plug. Nobody in Chatham County can still boast 2.2 million like me, but it's. I'm just saying. But no, I think I think, and to your point, Dante, I think what we're seeing is there are things I do agree with that Donald Trump is doing, but there are things that's called everyday kitchen table items is where he's failing. And I don't understand why he's failing there. But Carter, you're joining us. Jump on into the conversation. We're talking about the Public Service Commission and the surprise change of guard, if you will, with Peter Hubbard and Alicia Johnson winning those races.
I'm honestly surprised that Alicia won. And I hate to be the one to say, but I actually hate when she speaks because her voice is very, very nasally. But
it'll be nice.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. I have not had a chance to actually look up the numbers, but they was like the voting turnout was actually not from election night from a year ago. It was very low.
Not at all.
And the fact that Democrats unanimously won those 2 seats kind of just reflects the fact that the people who did go out and vote were the ones who were like, yeah, we're going to go out and see. But I do agree with a lot of the commentary that's been going on is that Democrats don't win elections. They win in response to what the other party has done.
Well, that happens in different decades. Political party will become reactionary, and then in another cycle, they'll become proactive. It just depends on what decade you're in.
I want to really quick, as you all were talking, this idea of affordability. This is the new word. And for those who don't know, I'm a moderate Democrat. I know liberal Democrats have a problem with that, but I'm more moderate than But this idea of affordability and this word, I don't technically like it. I don't like any time when we weaponize things. So Dante, don't get excited. But this idea of affordability, at the end of the day, what we need is somebody who's in touch with the people that they're leading. And I don't know if we really have that locally, regionally, or in a national space.
Well, we have too many people that have not lived off government and have not had to pinch their pennies and have no clue, what an 8-ounce of mustard costs at the grocery store. I'm sorry, but
that's real.
When you have any political candidate that can't even tell you the price of, a loaf of bread, you have a problem. I mean, that's just a person who's been so out of touch. They don't know how regular or less than regular life is. I'm not saying that you have to be poor in the criteria to run for office, but it might benefit you to have some clue what everyday people go through in paying bills and expenses every day.
Well, we've got to touch with that. That's what I will say. Everybody pretty much in that realm, unless it's at a local level, but then you can't even say that at a local level, because even at the local level, people are truly out of touch with their own constituents.
Yeah, sure.
So I agree with you on that affordability thing. Like, what is like? We got to classify what is the definition of what you mean by affordable.
Well, it's different for different people. That's the
Mm.
problem. What we need to be focusing on is opening up the job market
Mm-hmm.
and lowering taxes so the job market will expand. And if more people are employed, there's a greater potential that they can get a bonus or a raise. And then affordability won't have to be enforced by any government body. But whenever the government tries to implement a cap or affordability on something, it just raises prices somewhere else. The real problem is we need a real open job market that hires the people within that vicinity rather than transporting a workforce from another county, another state, or worse, another country.
Oh, you talking about Hyundai? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with everything Clint just said.
Trying to be diplomatic and not say it. You just blew me right
But I
out.
mean, the whole Honda situation, the ones who got, well, the ones who in their situation, they were supposed to be here temporarily. They were not supposed to be here forever. They were here to train. They were here to help build, train the people who work here to ensure a satisfactory level of development in the factory itself before they departed ways and went back home. That situation just went badly. This went badly because of one lady. But
Yeah, apparently. But
they weren't here to take jobs. They were here to literally train people to do the job so that you could continue to build off what they had taught. Of course, eventually they probably would have to come back because some new technological advancement that the company had made was coming to part, and they needed it to make sure that it was going to be ran efficiently. But we know that that was going to be an in and out situation where we was going to see a lot of foreign people coming in.
well, that's not the issue. The issue of the original intent was lost, and that was the problem. The original intent is somehow fading away, and rather than training the locals, which was supposed to happen,
Which was supposed to happen.
what occurred was the replacement, or how can I say, the bypass of the locals. And that's not, like you said, Carter. The original intent was they were to be here temporarily to train the people that were already here, and then they were to leave. And that's not what happened.
Now, Dante, you were going to say something earlier. If you would hop on in and share that.
Oh no, I was going to say I agree with everything that Clint said.
A fourth time we agreed.
In regards to the word affordability, I honestly I hate that word because it can mean, like someone said, that has many different definitions. The best thing to do is to make sure we have a free jobs market, to make sure people do have some form of employment so they can get the needs that they can to take care of themselves. But I think politicians really need to stop using the word affordability because it's, as someone also said, they're trying to weaponize it and they're playing into people's emotions.
Well, even with that, let's kind of shift gears. This idea of living wage. How do you feel about living wage, Dante?
I mean, a living wage, again, that's something that I think I make a very good salary, but I mean, I don't think that's a livable wage based on everything that I have to pay. But I'm pretty sure you could put me in a room against a few other people and they would say, hey, you make way more money than I do. So depends on who you ask.
But I guess
we all want to make more money.
My argument on that is, at this point, the minimum wage needs to be at least $15 to $20 an hour. The fact that we have people making less than that is absolutely crazy.
The problem is when you raise the minimum wage, all the prices, all the taxes will go up. So you're making the same amount of money as you were before the increase in minimum wage. So you're not really making any progress. You give the illusion, but then when the prices go up and the taxes go up and you pay all those bills, you have the same amount of money as you had before when you had a lower wage. So it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. it doesn't really resolve the issue.
Exactly. And then we also need to have a deeper conversation with people that are over a certain age of adults that are still working at jobs that pay $7 or $8 an hour, and also have children. Like at some point, society and individuals, you have to want to move up in a company. You would have to start to make changes in your own life so you can advance. If you're working the same job for X amount of years and still getting paid the same amount of money, you have to either want to change something, or if you come content with it, you can't complain or be upset with anybody but yourself.
But I mean, currently, if we look at based off what you just said, what about the older generation who are refusing to move out of the way for the younger generation to move up into those higher positions so that people can come in and take positions that they are taking?
That is true in some cases. There are also some older people that are going back to work because young people aren't going to work.
I think the whole situation stems from the increase in privatized charity and the increase of governmental programs. When we increase governmental programs, privatized charity begins to decrease, and privatized charity will implement rules. If you want us to help you, you got to improve this. You got to change this about your life. Otherwise, we're not going to help you. Therefore, the person was inspired to fix the problems in their life and therefore elevate up the ladder in a career, whatever that career was. But as government took over and privatized charity decreased, there's no stipulations anymore for people to fix their alcoholism, their drug addiction, their shopaholic, their gambling, nothing. So they keep those bad habits and it remains stuck and stagnant in a career where it's a janitor, waitress, whatever, not evolving, not going up, therefore stuck in a minimum wage job because they never fixed the problems in their life, because when they got help, there was no stipulations to it. And now that privatized charity in the shadow of what it used to be, no change happens. People just stay in the same type of job forever and poverty increases.
Interesting. Let's talk about this really quick. I want to throw this in the mix to this government shutdown issue and the whole idea around, because we're talking about special programs, the whole idea around food stamps. And this is Dante. I texted you in the group earlier. What confuses me about the evangelicals of the grand old party, the Republican Party, evangelicals consider themselves people of Christ and followers of Christ, but when it comes to immigrants and feeding the hungry or those less fortunate, that whole thing about following Christ seems to go to the wind. So help us understand, I have a hard time, understanding that these particular set of people want to be socialists to millionaires and evangelicals to the people that they like, but other people are supposed to suffer. Help us understand that.
I'm not an evangelical, so I can't really speak for that community. And they would consider me more of a libertarian conservative if you had to put me in a block or in quotations. So I couldn't even tell you how they feel about or looked at any polls. I see the argument you're saying, but I mean, when we talk about these SNAP programs, and I do feel sorry that some people aren't able to feed themselves or their family. This also opens up a wider question about who's getting government assistance. What are they doing with the government assistance program? You can't want me to take care of yourself if you're not taking care of
Can
yourself.
I hit pause right there? I want to hit pause. Let me hit pause. No. You can't say that, but then yet you give these loopholes to millionaires. Because I thought the same thing. But what got me, Dante, is we want to penalize those who are less than and never had a same starting line, but those who are millionaires, we're gonna give tax cuts to. I just wanted to throw that in there because I really thought about the argument, but you can't do one but then throw the ball on the other.
And I love how you kind of tied evangelicals and millionaires together. And the loopholes you're talking about, those loopholes are in fact in place when Democrats and Republicans are in power. So it doesn't matter if they're evangelical or Republican or Democrat. Both parties have kept those loopholes in power, the ones that you're talking about specifically. Going back to the argument that I was stating, I've seen a video where a lady said it is taxpayers' responsibility to take care of my children.
Well,
now, again, I feel sorry for some of these people that are going through the situation that they're going through, but I'm all for helping somebody. But how many years or how many times do I have to help you? Like, when are we going to have that conversation?
Hold on, Dante.
And I'm not trying to be rude about it, but I do think that is a fair conversation. I honestly do want the government. Please don't think I want the government to be shut down. I want the government to open back up so people can get their benefits. I do think the Trump administration needs to do something so people can get their benefits. I do think we need to have a question once these benefits are reactivated. What are people actually doing with them?
Okay, yeah, but you're throwing a straw man argument up there. Number one, not everyone is that unappreciative. There are people that understand that food stamps and any other government program is given to them out of the compassion of the American taxpayer. Not everyone assumes that it's their right to collect food stamps. A lot of people do understand, hey, this is my local and national taxpayers helping me out. Thank you. But you're always going to have people that are unappreciative and think that you owe them. You find that in every facet. But you can't lump them all together. You can't assume that everyone that receives food stamps or any type of program is that delusional. Not everyone is.
I did use the word some people.
Yeah. Well, I can say it like this. I remember visiting when the Grand came in, and the lady made a very, very derogatory joke about Americans when she stated that about our social services. She was like, everybody there had a job. They didn't care if you had 3 legs or 1 arm. You had to have a job. But she said, if you don't work, you don't eat. So, with that being said, we also have 2 different types of people. We have the people who, like you said, the lady who was on there talking about this is the government's job to take care of her, when I feel like maybe she's very able-bodied, but who knows her circumstances, what she has going on. But then we also remember that on the news, it was a lady, she suffered a stroke, and that stroke had her bedridden, and that was the only government assistance was the only way that she survived. So when we get to that line, who gets to cross that line? Are we going to say that this lady who appears to be able-bodied, but we don't know her mental physical well-being, what she's able to take care of kids, because she could be on assistance because she has some debilitating disease or ability that doesn't allow her to work to take care of them. So that's why she's saying that.
Yeah, you don't know. And I think the state should have more autonomy with the SNAP programs. I don't think it shouldn't be so much in the federal government's hands. I think each state should handle it.
I can agree there. Yeah.
That way, because it's more local, we have more stake, in our people starving. When it becomes national, they don't care about cutting off, and they're not having to live with it. They're not having to see it. They're not having to see the starvation. But if we just make it where the states handle their own SNAP programs independently with full autonomy, I think that might resolve some of the issues.
I agree. I think, and honestly, I think this is going to get a lot of backlash, but a lot of Trump is racist. They'll use that term real quickly, but I don't think it's necessarily Trump is racist. I think Trump understands exactly what you just said, Clinton. A lot of the issues and things that we're seeing at a federal level need to be at a state level. And I totally agree with that. There's certain things that we cannot put this burden on the federal government. It's so much on the federal government right now. It needs to be states.
We keep talking about authoritarianism, but when we turn around and we want to give every responsibility to the federal government, okay, if you don't believe in authoritarianism and you don't believe in a dictatorship or a monarchy, stop giving all the power to Washington, D.C. You should have some of the power with the states or with the counties or with the
Right.
local cities or towns. We need to stop giving up all the responsibility to one place and call Capitol Hill. I think that's our mistake.
Well, it's interesting too. You know, one of the things I was thinking about, we put judicial levels all the way down to the county. Why can't we do that with other things? Interesting pieces there. But we're going to step away for a quick break, and we will be right back and hop into our final topic.
Hello, world. We're here serving Savannah, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Brooklyn, Houston, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and the world. The best music all the time. The greatest songs ever made, every time. Tune in to Hot 2100 Savannah and get a taste for your ears. Hot 2100 Savannah, serving Savannah and the world.
I see why you mad, you ain't swagging like this.
All right, you all. So, one of the things I was considering, throughout the week was this idea of an economic ecosystem. And it touches not only locally, but all the way nationally. But as we think about an economic, like a regular ecosystem, I think I was talking with somebody about the idea of the coral reefs, if the coral reefs go away, or if we don't have enough sufficiency for honeybees to pollinate flowers, and a number of things. If the ecosystem is off, then a number of things shift. But as we think about an economic ecosystem, a lot of things are shifting in a pretty bad way, I would say. But can we even stabilize it at this point?
Yeah, I think we can. We need to retrain the workforce to work more as technicians, because as restaurants convert to kiosk systems, especially fast food industry, they're going to need less and less actual workers and more repair people to work on the kiosk machines that make your food, and that's the future. Because when minimum wage went up in some of the states in the fast food industry, they're just now innovating and putting kiosk machines to take over what the employees used to do. So we also need to look at other areas where we can retrain the future. Because, how can I put it? Whether you're a small company or a corporation, you want to keep the same profit margin. And if prices escalate for labor, you're going to be replacing the workforce with automation. But so we just teach people how to work on the automation. We change the way we think. I think that's what we need to start doing for the future. We also need to stop brainwashing the younger generation that they have to have a bachelor's degree, because what we need now is blue collar workforce. And it makes more money now than the white collar workforce, because there's such a high demand, and there's so little people in the blue collar industry now. We brainwash people in thinking that they can only make it in life successfully if they go to school for 4 to 8 years. And that might have been true years ago. It's not true now.
I am still a staunch advocate for the four-year university, because of the one thing that I will say is that it does teach you skills, allows you to develop in a different environment that you wouldn't in a blue-collar industry. Now, from the other side of it, I've done both. I've been to the 4-year, but I've also been to the trade school side. And I will agree that the trade school blue collar lifestyle will give you better opportunities. I'm much more staunch advocate, especially within my community, to advocate for trade schools and technical skills, like you say, the repair, the automation repair of those of the kiosks and stuff like that, because it allows them access to higher paying jobs with less time in school. And a lot of these fields that are absolutely necessary that we going forward into the future don't even require you to actually go to school. A lot of them you can go do basically the apprenticeships and on the job training to get it.
You're
So
right.
it's far more beneficial either way. But then in the long run, like now, a lot of jobs will require you, even if you, especially dealing with, I'll say, give an example like HVAC stuff like that, or within HVAC, we'll do HVAC. So you want to move up within a company that's that they will still require you to have that bachelor's degree, or furthermore to move up that master's degree. So it's a double-edged sword to whichever way you decide. But the one thing that I will tell everybody out there, go get the trade before you go get the bachelor's degree.
Well, my advice is that you stop blindly increasing what these universities that are on government payroll get from the Pell Grant and Hope Scholarship. Because the more government funding that's provided to universities that are on the Regents Board, etc., the more they go over budget on purpose so they can request more money. And it's become way too political. I think we need to basically put the hammer down. Look, if you're going to collect the Hope Scholarship and the Pell Grant, you can't generate money in a capitalistic private school. You're either a capitalistic private university or you're a government funded university. You can't be both. Because when you do that, all you're going to do is get greedy and raise the rates of tuition to where no one can afford it without going into debt till the day they die.
Well, what you're talking, Clinton, what you're talking about is something that even on a local level, charter schools and magnet schools, more so charter, and this idea of private-public partnership, which is weird to me. But I agree with you. If you're going to be private, be private.
Yeah.
Generate your funding off of the people that come to you and tuition and all of that. What is interesting in my experience has been you typically see higher salaries in the private sector than you do in the public schools, right? So, but I will say higher education has its purpose. Higher education is supposed to be a space where you get to think and liberate and do all of the things that in a trade you're looking at a specific focus. Yes, you will make more money coming out of the gate, you know, if you're a carpenter or plumber. I totally agree with that. That's a honorable profession. The opposite side of that is, do you want to be more of a philosopher, thinker, liberate your mind kind of thing? And not to say that that can't happen in trades, but that's kind of the reason why we have higher education. My problem is when I think somebody said it, when we politicize it. And so Dante's going to love this, but Donald Trump and his cronies have no business in higher ed, because until you understand the purpose and the rationale of why higher education even exists, be quiet. And the sad thing about it is, I think we have politicians who think they're medical doctors, who think they're scientists, who think they're higher education professionals, and all they're really good at is making demands. How many of the scientists and medical doctors do you see trying to be politicians or tell them what to do? Okay, so we need to stay in our lane and understand that we can't control everything at a political level, and we need not put everything in a political spectrum.
But we shouldn't take everything at face value. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. When there were doctors that came out during the COVID episode against what, the mandates, they were blacklisted and ignored. And they went against the CDC. And the whole point of science is questioning, looking at the empirical evidence. And we threw that all out the window to follow the experts. And only now have we discovered that Fauci himself was just making arbitrary rules with no evidence to back it. But anyone who questioned him that was a physician or scientist, they were automatically blacklisted, banned, blocked, ghosted, debunked. And only now we're finding out about that. So we can't follow anything blindly. Yeah, listen to the experts, but you can use some of your own intellect to take some things with a grain of salt. That's like going to a doctor, being advised for a procedure and not getting a second opinion. There's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion from another doctor. Nothing wrong. Just to take things at face value, that's a type of foolishness that leads to nothing but bad things.
But I mean, we were living at that point in time with Fauci. We were living in an unprecedented time, a time that we had not seen in over a century. So, being that he was the leading doctor, based off what you just said, is that now we can discredit him because we have empirical evidence, correct?
Correct. And the rest, but during the time that he was, speaking all this empirical evidence was being shoved under the rug. And that was wrong. It should have been to the public. It should have been available. Other doctors should have been allowed to at least discuss it with Fauci and his experts, and they were not.
But based off of even what
the only thing you can say about Fauci is, I mean, he contradicted himself several times. I mean, we can just go back and look at the videos. He contradicted himself throughout. And I do agree with Clint on Fauci. Yeah, the light is now starting to show our spotlight on him and how I don't even want to call him incompetent, but I do think there was a lot of questions that he do need to answer, and possibly jail time.
I don't think he'll ever answer. I mean, I'm sorry, but if he's gotten away with tap dancing for 40 or 50 years, why would he stop now?
That's one of the billionaires that Robert was talking about.
What billionaire are you talking about? What do you mean? We're waiting.
Dr. Fauci.
At the end of the day, I'll say this. One of the things I believe in, especially in today's time, no subject needs to be left to one person. At this point in time, we need collaboration. That's the biggest problem we have now. We need collaboration, and we need limits. And so when it comes to federal government or state government, Surgeon General, for example, do you want a Surgeon General that's going to last 8 years or 20 years? I will probably say 8 because trends change and people sometimes do not. We're seeing the same thing with certain college coaches and NIL, where the system is changing, but the person is not. And so I think everything when it comes to federal, state, any government, especially elected officials, needs to have a limit because it makes no sense. And I'm going to put, money where my mouth is. It makes no sense that Nancy Pelosi is basically on her in a space where I don't know if she needs to be making decisions, but she held that role, she held that power for so long, and I just think sometimes we allow it, and it shouldn't be happening.
But I mean, RG, you said this quite before. It comes from the fact that generations before, you put somebody in office, they say all the correct things, and then they stay in office because we know them, we're familiar with them, we believe them, instead of believing the person who is challenging them, and they don't have to challenge themselves because they've been in this spot for so long.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is too, and Clinton's going to love this, identity politics. I can agree with identity politics to a certain degree, but also I'm going to call it out. It is interesting to me that President Obama was so gung-ho on electing a black woman president, but when it came to electing a black woman as governor of Virginia, we didn't see the same rhetoric, right?
That lady was stupid, and I'm going to say it like
that. Was weird.
That lady was stupid.
That woman double standard. That's what happens when identity politics. A lot of people that uphold them have a double standard. They only use identity politics when it benefits their cause. When it doesn't benefit their cause, all of a sudden they don't care about identity politics.
Wow. But the question is, before we go even further, why would a known Democrat, former president, endorse a non-Democrat?
He didn't have to endorse anybody. He made a choice.
He did make a choice. And if you listen to that lady talk, it's the one thing that we know. And if it's the one thing that we know.
Let me share this. Trump made the choice not to be highly visible for seers. So what I'm saying is, I hear your argument and I agree with it. However, you could have just took a seat, sometimes just take the seat back and let the things roll like they roll.
There's
But
two points I just want to cover real fast. The first thing, I do agree on term limits. I don't think we should be having people that are uh 70, 80 years old still run the country. I do think politicians need to only be in there for a certain amount of time, and then they can go ahead, kick rocks, and let the next generation come in. In regards to this last point we're talking about, Bobby, you bring up a very good point, and it's normally what Black conservatives have to go through all the single time. And what Obama did is a perfect example. And a lot of us, a lot of Black conservatives really go through where you can pretty much say or describe a Black conservative or even talk down to them, because a lot of Black people didn't even see Winsome Sears as Black. They even challenged that. It was okay for a white liberal to hold up a sign supporting a transgender having to use a water fountain versus a Black woman using a water fountain. And nobody screamed that that was racist or had any issue with that. But let it have been a Black liberal that had gone through that, the streets would have been burning. And what Obama has done, I mean, he's a classic hypocrite. He really is. Just like how he went to Flint, Michigan and pretend to drink the water.
Well, 99% of these folks are hypocrites, which is sad because we don't have any people. You rarely have a person on any level at this point. Well, we do have a few that are very transparent and just, you can't blow with the wind. That bothers me with so many folks. It's, I'm going to blow with the wind because the money over here is good. I'm going to blow with the wind because, this person gave me a great campaign donation. I'm going to blow with the wind because this is my friend, Stacey Abrams. And we got to be careful of that. I guess what I'm looking for is a little more consistency. And sometimes that means staying out of the way.
A lot of them need to go. What's that guy in South Carolina? The Lindsey Graham, gone. Mitch McConnell, gone. Ron DeSantis, he need to leave.
I want Lindsey Graham gone. I hate that.
Lindsey need to go sit down.
y'all leave Miss Lindsay alone now.
Lindsey need to go sit down.
We do not know his sexuality until he confesses.
It ain't even about that. Lindsey,
you might be onto something there. You might be onto something, but he has not confessed.
Lindsey needs to go.
Right. He's a warmonger. He promotes every war ever introduced to him. I've never seen anything like it in my life. But getting off that topic, you weren't talking about no one in Washington seems to not be a hypocrite. Well, I think two names come pretty close to being authentic. Massey and Rand. I mean, they seem to be pretty authentic.
You talking about Nancy Mace?
No, I'm talking Thomas Massey.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
I'm talking about
Get the lunatic out of here.
Rand Paul. Now, you may not like them, but they're pretty authentic, and they don't seem to be hypocritical.
I honestly like John Kasich. I think John Kasich is authentic. If John Kasich ran for president, it'd be hard for me not to vote for him. Another one, Brian Kemp. I think Brian Kemp is authentic. A lot of people have a problem with that, but I like Brian. Carter, you got a reaction.
I'm gonna say it like this. Of course, we know Brian Kemp is a moderate Republican. Personally, I do like Brian Kemp, and that's ultimately why Republicans are ultimately mad at him right now that he didn't run for senator, because they knew if he ran for senator, he would beat John Ossoff. Because Georgians love Georgia, even all other races like their governor at this point in time. I'm not gonna lie. He would be a very strong candidate in a problem.
He's moderate, he gets it.
I just want, what's that? Rawson? I can't say his last name. Rawson. Somebody pronounce it.
Rossiter?
Raffensperger.
Raffensperger?
I want him to.
Raffensperger is creepy to me. Raffensperger knows how to play the game, and I don't typically like that.
To the core. I want him gone.
You don't like him, so now
I think he's going to through the primary. I think Burt Jones is going to take it. Carter, I agree. I wish. What's that?
Mike Thurman is out of all the candidates running. Mike Thurman, I think, is probably the best situated and best prepared and the most authentic out of all of them. Burt just wants to please Trump, and I don't like that. Please.
Well, I agree. I don't like how Bert came out with the Trump endorsement because I think he needs to focus on Georgia and Georgia constituents. Donald Trump has nothing to do with this race, so I agree with you there. But I do think Bert Jones will ultimately win in the end. And I hope Brian Kemp runs for president in 2028. I don't think he will, but hopefully he'll consider it. If he doesn't, at least be on the stage to get some people to go back to their conservative principles and stop going to the far right.
Come up with that.
Oh my goodness. So any final comments, y'all, before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's release the Epstein files.
That'll never happen.
I know,
but you know what's so funny, Clinton? I heard this earlier. It's so funny that are interesting that you know, the Trump administration is advocating or not supporting feeding children, but will always be interested in the children at Epstein Island. Carter, you go next.
Dear God, I don't even know what to say.
I'm just saying what they said.
Well, the only bad thing is the reason the Epstein files will never be released is too many powerful and dangerous people are on that list, and they'll start killing people the moment it's released.
Yeah.
Clinton, thank you for saying something, because what Bobby just said was so propaganda to us, not even funny.
It's not propaganda.
It is propaganda.
The pictures have been presented. I mean,
it's so propaganda that Trump had anything sexually to do with what's going on.
If you see me in a picture, several pictures, you see me in several pictures of somebody who goes to bars.
Wait a minute, even if he's innocent, he's protecting people that are not.
That part.
I think the reason he's protecting them is because they might kill some of the people that he's related to.
That's my thing. If he's has nothing to do with it, then good. If you got nothing to do with it, then show it.
Well,
you ain't gotta be scared of.
While I agree with both of you, here's what my response to you. Where was this? Epstein didn't die in 2025. Where was this outrage years ago? Even starting under Obama, going through.
Because Obama ain't on the list.
This outrage came about, right? This outrage,
Trump, Biden, then back to Trump again. This forced outrage is ridiculous.
No, nobody cares.
No. This outrage started in 2018 when that man died. It only became really relevant right now because Trump promised during his campaign trail to release the
That's a
Epstein
true statement. That's a true statement, which I don't even know why he would promise something he couldn't do.
Would have ever promised to release the Epstein files in his campaign, they would not be harping on it. And like most people have said, this is going to bury him in his own presidency because he promised it. It is not going to go away at no point in time.
Carter's right. If he had kept his mouth shut and not made the same promise.
No, I 100% agree. That is something that he talked about on the campaign trail.
Yeah,
I'm not going to deny that.
If he had not mentioned it, it wouldn't have such relevance in people's minds. But he made that such a primary point in all his speeches that now people are holding him to the fire.
And that's that. All right, y'all. We're gonna do this again next Sunday, same time, same place. The Watch Dawgz on Our Black Media. Y'all have a great week.